You see them online, real estate entrepreneurs. But how are they doing it? And what are they doing different? We've got the answers. This is the Real Estate Block. Interviewing real estate entrepreneurs doing consistent real estate deals. If you want to be a real estate entrepreneur or you're already in the business, we've got on the pros that give the secrets and strategies to make it happen. This is the Real Estate Block, and this is your host, Aaron Gaunt.
All right, welcome to the Real Estate Block podcast, where the value given during this show will help you find and create consistent real estate deals. Where we talk to real estate entrepreneurs doing consistent deals month after month. We'll be taking a deep dive into their teams, their marketing strategies, systems and processes to see how they built a machine that produces consistent deal flow. Today, I have my good buddy Devin on the show.
Hey.
Devin, tell us about yourself, who you are, what were you doing before real estate, and then why the heck did you get into real estate?
Yeah, man. Okay, cool. So my name is Devin. Devin Robinson. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. From LA. Go Dodgers, go Trojans.
Oh,
I'm talking about. And Lakers. Grew up on all those teams. I am married. Been married. It'll be 10 years this year.
Wow.
Praise the Lord for that. Thanks, man. It's been crazy. And then my wife and I, we foster kids. So we have 3. 2 we recently adopted. 1 we're fostering. They're all biological, so very thankful for that as well. So it's been wild. It's a crazy. Beautiful. They're 5, 4, and 1 years old. So it's just insane around my house. Before real estate, so I guess it's funny. You probably hear a lot of people, serial entrepreneur, blah, 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 blah. I just don't like authority. Just for some reason, I can't do it. So really tough with authority. I used to just quit jobs just because I was bored or just because I didn't want it. They'd be like, hey, I remember distinctively like walking in and like getting a promotion. And then I was like, no, I'm all right. And they're like, what are you going to do? And I was like, I don't know. I'll figure it out. And like, I didn't even tell my wife. I just straight up quit. And so I just have been like that. So I'm on my 8th business now. Different things. So like a bunch of different things. I've learned a lot, man. I've learned a lot, and not all of them have been successful. Like maybe like 1 or 2 of them was like really successful. But then like I had this one boss, and he was like, Devin, I don't ever see you doing anything for longer than 5 years. And so far he's been right. I've like built, either handed off or crashed and burned after the 5-year mark. And so that's kind of just how it's been for me. And so now, about 1.5 years ago, like last April, I was cruising through TikTok as any good millennial does. And I saw this guy come up and he was like, hey, make money in real estate with no credit and no money. And I'm like, sweet. So I was like, I went to my wife and I was like, hey, babe, you should try this. This looks pretty easy. And she was like, no, thanks. And I was like, all right, I'll try it. And so then I started that in April. And between April and October, I did 70 deals. Wholesaling. Wow. And so, nice. But like completely wrong. It's funny. You're in CG. Love CG Collective Genius. Super thankful for that community and the people in it. But I was talking to a guy named Ren, and Ren was like, you found some weird glitch in the matrix, because like literally what I was doing was going on Zillow for sale by owner, negotiating with them, and then selling the contract to a hedge fund. And so and it was working, man. It was working. We did a crazy amount of money last year, but when I first started it, I didn't think it was going to be like anything. I was like, hey, friends. It's usually how every good story starts. Hey, friends. That's how all good businesses go. I have a really good connection with this hedge fund. Would love for you. You guys jump in. You get them under contract on Zillow. We'll send it to the hedge fund. I'll give you guys 50%. And so,
oh, wow.
Yep. They were like, great. That sounds awesome. I didn't think it was going to be anything. I literally thought it was a little side thing we were chilling. And then it quickly blew up, like quickly grew. It caught me off guard. I had honestly like probably one of the toughest seasons in my life, having to understand what was going on, like building this business, and then understand how the industry actually pays people. And then having to go to my friends and be like, hey, I'm actually running a company here. It's not, we're hemorrhaging money because I'm giving it all away to you guys. And they're like, oh, sure, man, we completely understand. And then I was like, hey, I'll give you 20%, still above industry average or industry standard. And then they were just like, no. And like the saddest part is like, I still haven't talked to some of those friends in a year, and they were some of my closest friends. And so really tough lessons, man. I learned a lot in that season. It was really hard. And then this is where like the reality comes in for me. Like that company was, the company was built on a whim. It was built on something that like seemed really cool. I took advantage of a certain thing that was going on in this market that I knew nothing about. And then come November, when the hedge funds dried up and people stopped listing on Zillow, things were going on. I had no idea what was going on. Come January, we went from 70 deals in 6 months, 6 to 7 months, to 4 deals in 4 months. And I had to lay off most of my staff. And I was sitting in there by myself in an office and lonely and figuring out what the heck to do. And so in that moment, like I knew it's real estate. Like, so I've owned marketing companies. I've owned all different types of companies, and I've traveled the world, thankful being able to do all those things, but like, they're not real estate, right? Like it's not real estate. And so at the end of the day, like I knew that this was it. And so I decided to kind of double down on real estate and put all my eggs in one basket, really. And so I spent probably the last 9 months refining and honing the systems and processes in our company. And so I had this boss. I hated him. I didn't hate him. He just, I get it. He just wasn't a friendly guy. And so, but he told me one thing that I thought was incredible. So I was a college pastor at a church, and it was like a mega church. So like every Sunday I'm teaching to 100 so college students every single Sunday. I've gone through some crazy jobs, but like this was one of them. It wasn't that crazy. But like I say that because every step of the way has kind of prepared me for who I am today and who I am now. But like I remember I was like, man, I'd love to be able to preach on a Sunday morning in the big church, all that stuff. And he was like, Devin, what you need to do is you need to focus on honing your craft in obscurity. Right? Like when nobody's watching, when you got 100 college kids, when you can afford to mess up, when you're just learning the craft, you need to hone your craft in obscurity when nobody's watching, so that when the time comes for a Sunday morning, you've gotten so good at your craft, you can capitalize on that moment. And so for me, that's what the last 9 months in real estate has been. I have built out the most robust systems, processes you can ever imagine for this company. Like
that's awesome.
It's insane. And so, so that like we're able to scale proportionate to what gets inputted is able to come output. And so like all that stuff is in place. And so I spent the last 9 months honing my craft in obscurity. And now we're starting to see the fruits of that labor. And so like I joked with you because I feel like I'm probably the least most successful person on your podcast, because like you're talking about consistent deal flow month, all that stuff. And I'm like, sure, not quite there yet. But let me tell you, like, it's built out. Like it's built out. And we are like, I tell my team this. I'm meeting with my team this morning. But I tell my team this. I say, we literally are like an airplane on the tarmac. We've gained momentum. We've got we've got the wheels off. Maybe the back wheel is still on, but like we are almost there where we're about to take off, and it's going to be directly proportionate to what we put into it. And so like, I can tell you my 5 and 10 year goals. I used to not be a goal guy, but like I'm a big dreamer, and I'm talking a lot. I'm a big dreamer, but what's really cool is opportunities, communities, and like interactions like CG allow me to understand like the dreams and how close the reality is to those dreams. Like I remember being in a circle with 3 guys at the bar in, what was that, 3 months ago? One of them owns a hedge fund, and like he owns a DeFi hedge fund and a regular hedge fund. Another one walked me through his plan of being a billionaire in the next 19 years and is already on track for 3 billion.
I'm not sorry to interrupt you. Are you talking about when at the meeting at CG?
Yeah,
on the rooftop.
Yeah. No,
gotcha.
So this wasn't on the rooftop. This was just by the bar downstairs. Okay. One time, and then the other guy is creating essentially Carfax for houses. And so like I just thought to myself, I go like, we tend to think, we tend to dream so big that we think they're not attainable. And I literally was in a circle with 3 guys that would call me their peers and looked up to something I was doing. I don't know what the heck they were looking up to that I was doing, but like would call me their peers that literally have attained the dreams of people all over the world. And so like, I've got these visions and dreams, and I've spent the last 9 months honing the craft to be able to achieve them. So like, not the most successful person on your podcast right now by any means, but probably in 5 years I will be.
Devin, I'm going to obviously have to disagree with you. You know, what we have on here, I don't think so. You definitely have a gift. You have a gift of, you know, here's the thing. You've done consistent deals, right? You just revamped of what you're looking to do in your business. And now we're going to be talking about your processes, what your team looks like now. Again, you're not in the CG group for no reason. Right. We all know that we have to go through an interview process and all that to get into the group. And, you know, and I love it because actually, you know, we've learned so much, and to meet people just like yourself, you know, crumbling down and then getting back up, being obsessed with moving forward. Now, I love what you said, and you're not talking too much. So we've only been on this for 11 minutes. I love what you said, because I'm the same way. The authority figure, and let alone a godly man, right? What does the Bible talk about? You know, obey authority, right? Mm-hmm. And I always felt like I had a struggle with that, because as I grew up, I felt like I didn't obey authority like I wanted to. I just like we're hardworking individuals. I was telling this actually with my wife and last night. There's people that are gifted where, you know, this person. And it's a virtue, you know, somebody will, and I'm usually not talking this much on this podcast, but you got me going. Okay. And this is what I was talking to my wife. I said, you know, those people that say, I give it my all in anything I do. Right. And that's a good virtue. And it's a good person to be. I told my wife, I was like, that is not me. I'm very passionate. And I'm a hard worker, but I have to actually want and like what I'm doing. Yeah. If I'm not doing that, I'm probably not going to give it my all. But when I do find something, you best believe I'm going to beat everybody in it. Right. Yeah,
that's right.
So no, that's awesome, brother. Let me ask you this. So, because I saw before I got into CG, and then when I first went in, I saw your presentation. You were selling to hedge funds. You're building your systems and processes out now. What have you built out? Because now the hedge funds have backed off for a little bit. I know you'll probably go back into that. What have you built out in this last month?
Oh man. Okay. I've made everything. So like I've learned a lot. So I've learned a lot from the people in the company, like the people in CG, like Gary Harper, all of them, they talk about a lot of like process maps and building out the systems and the processes to make it reproducible, all of those things. My other companies that I've grown are like, you know, you can go and do this. I built out a wedding photography company where I had 15 photographers all over the country, and we did 100 wedding, almost 200 weddings all over the world. So like, which was cool, but it has nothing. Like that's got nothing on this company that I've built out right now. Like where there's systems and processes for each department and how they communicate with each other, and that it's completely reproducible and turnkey, so that I can put somebody in there and know that there's a standard KPI, like there's a standard to how they operate with KPIs to be measured. Like that's what I spent the last 9 months doing, like refining and fine tuning the processes for everything from like, and even from like a culture standpoint. So when I first started this company, I had a guy who consulted for me for one of my other companies. This guy named Carl. If you have an opportunity to meet Carl, you've got to meet him. A lot of people have met him at past CGs. He wasn't at this last one. Carl is a CE, like as a consultant to CEOs. So he does what's called like curiosity coaching. He consults on like culture, branding, ideation to implementation. He's like, wow. He's on the executive. He's the executive development, whatever, at one of the largest marketing companies in the country. And then like he'll literally, I remember him. We were meeting in San Diego, meeting with our team. He left to go consult with like Warner Brothers. Like he's like a big deal with that stuff. So we're really, really big on culture, And so for us, like we've spent the last like 9 months building out all that stuff, but then also refining and making sure that the culture that we have is one that we strongly believe in and people can get on board with. And so it's been really cool because like I've kept on. Was my cat in the background just jumping on the car?
Well, Devin, talk about the culture.
Yeah.
I mean, what kind of culture do you want to build?
That's great, man. So, our motto is people over profit. And so for us internally, it's people over profit. And so, for us, we build a culture that this is one of my favorite, it's a culture that heads in the right direction. Like everybody's going in the same direction, regardless of what you do. So it reminds me of a story where JFK back in 1968, he was walking through and he was being interviewed. He was walking around and he ran into somebody and he goes, Hey, sir, what do you do here? And the person said, I mop floors so we can put a man on the moon. And so this idea that nobody's above another person. Our goal is the same across the board. We all just serve a different purpose of accomplishing that goal. And so like for us, no matter who you are, like we don't call our cold callers or like whatever. They're our first impressions team. Right. Because literally they are the first impression for our company. Like they are. And so for them, they feel that they're valued in that sense that like, hey, we handle the first impression. So like literally what I love is that they care for the people in that point. So we do a lot of foreclosure marketing. And I had this lady, I mean, I can't tell you, she was like in tears talking to me and she was talking to one of my foreclosure callers. Like she was talking and she said, he sat there and he listened and he was empathetic with me. And so like, not what normal cold callers are like at all. They're just like, hey, you're in foreclosure. Are you interested in this? Whatever. He sat there with that woman and he listened to her. She cried. She cried to him. Like she cried to him. She told him a lot of these things. And she's like, people have just been so mean to me. Thank you so much for listening to my VA in Egypt. Like
incredible, because
he believes in our people over the profit mission. And he believes that he is an integral part of that. So he deploys a ton of empathy when on the phone with people because he's not just a cold caller. Right. And so for us, our culture transcends whatever like role that's typical. It's like the value that you have and the value that you bring. And so then we all push towards a mission and we've got core values and all that stuff. But yeah.
No, that's incredible. And, you know, that's one thing I love about doing these podcasts. I'm always learning something as well with the cold callers where you said Egypt. How many are you training them? Are you using a company? What does that look like?
Oh man, such good questions. So, love CG. So, back in June, guy named Kevin Ramirez, he was in my room. Amazing dude. Let me double check that's his name because I'm very positive it is his name. I love that guy a lot. He's actually in Raleigh and I'm in Charlotte. So he's right next to me, but I definitely want to make sure I get his name right because yeah, that's it. Kevin Ramirez. I was right. So he did this really awesome presentation on finding and hiring and training your own cold callers and your own VAs because a lot of people will outsource that stuff. And I tried to outsource and I think by God's grace, like I couldn't do it. Like it took me 2 months to try to hire an outsource agency because they use Payoneer and Payoneer would never approve me. And I have no idea why, but they just never approved me and they're a terrible company. They're not a terrible company. They just
you must have tried CRI.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's terrible.
Yeah. Yep.
And so what I decided to do was just kind of take it into my own hands. Kevin gave me a really cool blueprint on how to be able to find. And so like literally, man, I put it out. I interviewed 60 VAs. Like I kind of interviewed them. They applied, they sent in videos, they sent in audio, they sent in all that stuff. I found the best people with the best English. I found that the best speaking people were in Egypt. It's incredible. They like, if you listen to my VAs, I've had people like employees that I hired here stateside listen to my VAs and they had no idea they were VAs. And so I found some amazing people because I vetted every single one of them and then I interviewed them all to make sure they were a culture fit. And then I found one dude that is just like an A player, like a high A player out of Egypt. My guy is an animal. And so like he is the director of first impressions, right? And so for him, that's a huge role, right? Like that's an awesome role. If you're a VA in Egypt and you're like, I am the director of first impressions for a real estate investment company. Like
I love that.
He freaking loves it, right? And so like and he takes that job so seriously. And so he actually, and then he brings me other A talent, and then he manages and interviews them. I don't even have to do it. Like, I just don't even have to do it. And so like, I was very fortunate that I was able to find a high A player, just like a high achieving VA out of Egypt. Right. And so, but that came because like I vetted all of them, I interviewed them, and I made sure they were a good culture match. Now, like out of the 60 that applied, I maybe interviewed like 15. And then I hired 5. And then like I gave them incentives, did all that stuff. So, but he's a high culture match. And then he brought in, him, his brother, and then 3 other guys. 2 of them are part of our investor sales division, which is our disposition side. So it's just another word for dispositions. They're investor sales department, right? Because they handle the investor sales side of the company.
Gold nuggets right now.
Yeah. So like that's kind of now, not for me though. That may be a Rand Bartlett. I think he might do that. I can't remember who I got that from. So not for me. But like that's my investment sales division. And so and so like a couple of them are there, and then we've got really cool names. So I have a guy on my team who's probably like one of the most talented just in overall human beings I've ever met. But he was one of my best friends in college. He played basketball. I played baseball. He runs our whole sales. So he's like the chief sales officer. So he runs both our FAM, Flair Acquisition Managers. Internally, we're FAM, Flair Acquisition Managers. Externally, we're home buying specialists. Because like, what the flip? What are you you ring me up and you're one of the acquisition. What are you acquiring? Like, are you acquiring a new company? Like, what does that mean? I don't even know what acquisitions is. Externally, people have no idea like what acquisitions is. It's super vague. But if they call and they're like, hey, I'm the home buying specialist here at Pure Flair Homes, then they're like, oh, great. I know exactly what you do. Hey, let me connect you to one of my home buying specialists. I know exactly what you do. And so, and it just gives people a little bit more of an identity that they can just kind of like really believe in and feel. Like dispositions is such a like, wow, word, but investment sales rep or like investment sales manager, investor sales manager, like they can get behind those. And so, so I've got one of those. I've got a ton of verticals because now we're built out to do a lot of things. We have a property solutions side of the company. Where, all right, sorry, I just did a lot. So I'm going to break down the verticals. We've got a property solution side of the company where we, as an added value that I would just suggest anybody do, just figure it out and just do it, because sellers like go crazy over this. We clean out, we trash, we move people within a 15-mile radius of their home that they're selling. We'll also put it in a storage unit for them. That cost me like $2,000. People freak out about it. Like they're just like, oh my gosh. So like we do that. So we have a what's called a property solution side that also handles like property management. Like somebody will mow lawns, we'll do all that stuff. So my friend from college already had that. He was already doing that stuff. And then now he's just kind of like implemented that into this company. We've got the vertical, and I can share if you have like show notes, I can share our whole org chart, accountability charts, because it's a beast, but it's absolutely broken down really, really well. So we've got the sales departments for our Dragon Slayers, which are the Dragon Slayers are the acquisition people, and then the Rhinos, because my friend says they do all the heavy lifting, is like the disposition side. So like we've got that, and then we've got transaction coordination side of it. We've got a fix and flip entity with like project management. And then we're about to get into like large scale development because my man Council, have you seen his CG talk? It's insane. You bring him on the podcast and he's going to blow everybody's mind. He essentially buys 100 acre lots and then gets them all zoned and gets them all engineered and then sells it to a hedge fund for $3.5 million. So it's wild. His profit margins are like 90%. It's stupid. So then like, that will quickly become a part of our company as well. And then, nice. That's about to get crazy. And then, and then, the other side. So that's kind of like where we are across the board. I've got a total of probably like 6 VAs. Me and Carl, Darius, a project manager, and and then a TC.
Beautiful. So that's a good picture of what your team looks like now, and especially building that up here. Let me ask you.
I just hired one stateside. I just hired one stateside salesperson.
There you go. Well, how many salespeople do you have?
0, bro. I got my guy in Egypt. He closes deals. I was sitting at CG. Wow. I was sitting at CG, and my guy he was getting houses under contract in Egypt.
Incredible.
In Egypt.
And I know the all-in guys teach that to get the sales guys up in Egypt.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. I don't know anything about the all in. I know nothing about all in except for the fact that Aaron Klein is in all in. I know nothing about it.
I know a little bit. I know a few guys that are in that mastermind. But
sweet.
So that's a good picture of what your team looks like. What does your you kind of gave us a little picture on it, but what does your marketing do? Because you're doing it. I know you're doing pre-foreclosures right now. You have cold callers. What does that look like?
Yeah, great question. So cold callers, texting, and then pre-foreclosures, door knocking, and then texting. Now, I think there's like a couple of hacks in there. Like I have solely I actually in this current month or two don't have my cold callers calling any data other than calling pre-foreclosure data that I get directly from tax attorneys until they get a hold of somebody. Wow. I don't care at this because here's our pre-foreclosure deals are 50K, 80K, 80K. I don't need 15K deals that they're just cold calling absentee owner. You know what I'm saying? Sure, you can do that. It's a weird market. I would rather double down because foreclosures are set in such a way that if you get a hold of somebody, you win. Those are 10 out of 10. Those are 9 out of 10 deals. You just have to get a hold of them.
I love
that. Because they're in such dire need to do something that sorry, it's my cat. It's just
what's your cat's what's your cat's name?
So I got a couple cats. I got Winston here. Winston is coming down the minivan. And then I've got Oliver. He's just chilling somewhere. So yeah, we are in my garage. So but if you think about it, when it comes to motivation, it doesn't get more motivated than somebody whose auction is in 7 days.
Right.
And so sure, I can have my cold callers and I will. The question is, the answer is not and, the answer is both. But I just don't have the capacity right now. And quite frankly, if I'm honest with you, I don't have the capital right now to continue to invest into both. But we are about to close 3 large foreclosure deals, and then I will be set for a very long time to have whatever data I want. So this is where I'm saying I'm not the most successful person to come onto this podcast, but I've learned a lot. I've learned a whole lot.
So we'll just stop right here. See you in 5 years.
That's exactly right. I'll see. Listen, I'll see you next year.
There you go, baby.
Different. So,
the deals that you said that are coming in, were those wholesale? Because I know you were taking these down, right?
Yep. So that's also the biggest thing. So I've shifted my focus on, I also have shifted my focus on not acquisitions for me personally, because my team has done a great job. So I will close the foreclosure leads that they are hot lead. I'm on it. But I'm trying to raise a lot of private capital right now because these foreclosure leads, you need to deploy hundreds of thousands of dollars instantly. And so, cause my last 2 ones, somebody texted me on a Saturday and was my auction is on a Tuesday. And then the very next day, somebody was texting me on a Sunday night and was my auction's on Thursday. And so I have 3 days to stop a foreclosure and buy it. And so I need a large amount of capital instantly, especially when I'm doing 2 or 3 deals a week. The same person's not going to give me $200,000 every time. So I need multiple people with those things. So just on a really big kick for private lending. Coming up with that. I also am working really closely with Stoa since we can flip. Stoa is an incredible fund that will actually, my last 2 offers, they've given me an offer of 93, 94% ARV. So what happens is they fund it. And this is where it eliminates a lot of just wholesalers because they're going to fund it. So I've got one that I'm trying to close. I'm trying to get a hold of this lady. Her auction is already over and she loses the house on Friday. But if I get a hold of her today, they will fund it and they'll fund the flip and they've already bought it at So they've given me an offer of 285,000. This lady owes 100. We believe in people over profit. I'm going to give this lady like 150, 140. I don't know. I'm going to give her a good amount to enter into the next season of life with, maybe more than that. And then, like the 50 and 80 that I made, that was after giving them 70 and 50. Like, we give people what they deserve for the equity in their home. We're not screwing people. We could easily make 100,000 a pop on these, but like, we believe in people over profit. And if we believe it, we got to live it out. Like, I lost it. I lost an 80K deal 3 days ago because the lady, I went to her house. We loved each other. Her house was in incredible shape. She just went through some really hard stuff. I held her. She cried on my shoulders. Wow. And then about an hour, 2 hours later, after I left the home, after she'd signed everything and we had already began the process of getting her foreclosure stopped, her kids called me and were like, we're going to pay it off. And I could have been like, in that moment, nope, sorry about it. She sold me the house. It's my house. But if we feel like, if we believe in people over profit, for her to have her house, for her kids to step in like that for her to be able to take that house down and then sell it later on the market and make more money. Like, what does that say about our motto and our mission if we don't terminate that contract for her? If we go, nope, sold it for us, we won our 80K rather than giving her her home back. So we believe in people over profit. So we give people back on these foreclosures a lot of money because we still make a ton of money.
Right.
So like Stoa, which is cool, they're going to fund the purchase of the property. They're funding the flip. We just have to flip it to a very specific buy box that they have. And then they're going to buy it at 285 when we're getting it at 140. Like, awesome.
There you go. There you go.
So,
Stoa, is that just in your market or are they?
No, bro. I'm actually, it's wild. They're in crazy parts of South Carolina. They're in everywhere. They're actually in CG Premier. So I met them because funny story, I started in Premiere. So like I was in Premiere last year. So I met them in Premiere. No, but then now I'm in Select and it's awesome. I told y'all I could talk, okay? So I equate it like this. So I just learned about wholesaling last year. And I joined CG and we had done 70 deals in 6 months. I built other companies. Carl is a consultant to CEOs. So they let us into Premiere, which I'm thankful for. And it was cool. But I equate it to this. Are you a baseball fan, Aaron?
Sort of, not anymore.
All right. So there's a guy named Grady Little who coached the Red Sox and the Dodgers to the World Series, almost to a World Series. Well, he retired, got fired, and then he goes to my church. And I was a high school baseball and high school football coach. And so Grady decided he would serve the church. And so he was going to be a high school baseball coach. He was going to be the varsity head coach of our Christian school. And so like ESPN comes, they do a whole like write-up on him on being the most overqualified high school baseball coach in America. And so like what I learned, and I was his assistant coach. And what I learned though was like Grady had signed like David Ortiz, Clayton Kershaw, like Hall of Famers and managed Hall of Famers to World Series, but he had no idea how to coach high school kids. Like he was so far removed from coaching kids that were on JV, trying to get into high school, like trying to get to make varsity on fielding ground balls and pitching mechanics. He was so far removed from that he had no idea. I mean, he did have idea what to do. So Grady, if you listen to this podcast, first of all, that's awesome for Aaron. But like, he did know what he was doing, but like I coached those kids. He managed it. And it was like that when I was in Premiere, right? Like these guys are so far removed from creating SOPs and managing cold callers that they had no idea how to help me when I needed help. And so I just went to Leon and I was like, Leon, man, thank you, but I need to go to Select. And like, it was the best decision we'd ever made. I mean, like hands down, like Premiere's awesome. The connections are incredible. Like I'm sitting there taking a piss next to a guy who owns a giant hedge fund. And like it's incredible, but like for me and for like the innovation for the, like it's full of hungry, innovative people that are just trying stuff, failing, figuring it out, and then like making it work. Like Select is incredible for growth, I think. And so
that's actually, I'm glad you bring that up because that is one thing that Leon does say very often is the difference between guys in Premiere and guys in Select is just time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's something I feel like, I think a lot of us guys in Select, would like to get to the premier stage one day, but a lot of us have, been in for only such a small amount of time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and it's true. And I'm honestly like, I don't know if I'll ever want to go to Premiere, because Premiere is like this, man. I was sitting in the circles, and they're like in our breakouts, and they're like, here's what you do with your $25 million that's sitting over here. Here's how you avoid these taxes. I'm like, we're not the same, bro. Like, this is not the same. And I think Premiere is so Select is how to build your wealth. Premiere is what to do with your wealth, right? And so I'm just no, we are not the same. So it was really interesting, but I'm thankful. Select is incredible. And so I've learned a ton because of that. And it's just been super, super. It's just been good. Yeah.
Well, were you on the call? I think it was 2-3 weeks ago. It was a Friday. I think it was an all hands meeting. Guy comes on to tell us how to handle this market. And he was telling us to sell his $10 million commercial building. And I think all of us in Select were like, okay.
Yeah. Frank Cava. Yeah. And Frank Cava is a beast. He's an animal. Yeah. And I got to know him in Premiere and stuff like that. Awesome. But again, this is Premiere, right? We are not the same, bro. If I had 10 million in assets right now, of course, I
was like, this is not for us.
Yeah, yeah. So, then Jimmy had to come on and go, hey guys, here's the 101 version of that.
Yep.
The next week. Yeah. So, I'm really thankful for that community. But for me, it's been such a huge growing experience that I didn't know what I was doing a year and a half ago. So I've spent building out the processes and learning from people in CG like Frank, and Gary Harper and all those dudes on how to build out. Cause to go back and answer the original question of what are those systems and those processes and that were built out? It was literally sitting down and going through what tasks do I do, doing all those tasks. And then, you have the 4 quadrants of productivity, urgent, important, not urgent, not important, not urgent. And so it's what do I delegate away from me? And then what do I do? And then how do I make sure that how do I make sure that I am documenting the processes to make it easily reproducible? And so Carl teaches, another 4 quadrants. But this is also I think this is also just if you're, a Christian, this is also just the discipleship model where, and this is what Jesus did, right? So he starts off and it's you watch, I do, right? You watch, I do. So if I'm teaching you, you're going to watch me do this. The second turn is I do, you help. So I'm doing 75%, they're doing 25%. And then we have what we call the oh crap turn, where now it's you do, I help. So now you're doing 75% of it, I'm doing 25% of it. And then the fourth one is you do, I watch, or you can teach this. And so we break those down into 1, 2, 3, or 4. Are you a 1? Are you a 2? Are you a 3 or 4? And if I'm training you, I cannot tell you if you're a 3 because I don't know. Because there's sometimes Aaron, as you train, you'll probably be like, oh yeah, he's got that. And then he goes down and he has no idea what he's doing. And so for us, I can't tell you if you're at a 1, 2, or 3 or 4. If you're at where you do 75% and I do 25%, you may still be at a 2 where you're hey, I need to watch you a little bit more, a couple more times. I can't tell somebody if they're there. And so for us, building out our processes so that we build them in such a way that when somebody's a 3, then it's very quickly for them to become a 4 because they no longer need to come to me with asking questions. They no longer need to do that. It's in the SOP. We've walked through it together. We've done all that stuff together. And so those processes are built out to be, you have process maps, you have it all built out so that it's very reproducible at every part of our company, from the first impressions to our investor sales division to the TC, all that stuff, very reproducible.
Nice. I love the way you broke that down. I want to ask you, where did you learn the 1, 2, 3, 4 model?
Oh, I learned that from Carl. So Carl, this is what he does. He walks into Fortune 500 companies and he's like, this is how it should be. We also are a big fan. We think that language shapes culture. And so for us, in a lot of ways, that 1, 2, 3, 4 isn't just something I do. We can walk by and go, are you a 1 or 2 or 3 in this? And they're like, I'm a 2 in this. And we know exactly what we're talking about. Yeah.
Love it. Okay. Let me ask you this, Devin. We kind of talked about consistent, struggle that got you from, a couple deals here to there to doing consistent deals. I think we kind of went over that with all your SOPs and hidden pre-foreclosures. My next question is, what advice would you give in your position now to someone trying to do consistent deal flow? For example, if I was a new guy and I was just doing deals from
how new?
Let's say I've done a couple deals. Let's say I've done about 10 deals. And again, this could be retail deals, wholesale deals, fix and flip deals. Because I think you're kind of hitting on the head with these SOPs, but how would you be able to do consistent month after month deals?
Yeah. So I think that what you've done before, what you've always done will not be what always gets you to where you want to be. And so I think if you've got the money, it's to join a community that is always innovating. So that's what I do love about CG. And I know this is not an ad for CG, but every time I talk about it, it becomes one. But because what I did 3 months ago is not what I do now. So the market's completely shifted. And I strongly believe it where there's so many times I sit back and I'm like when I watched Ren's dispositions talk, I was like, if I wasn't in CG, I would never know this and I would never be able to do this. And I would just be trying to figure it out. I would just be trying to figure it out because I'm a hustler. I'm trying to figure it out. And I think smart people learn from their own mistakes and wise people learn from others' mistakes. And so that's what's a great thing about a community is it brings people together that are just learning, that are struggling. And then we're learning off of each other and helping each other. And so it would be to if you've done 10 deals, you might have some money to put into some sort of community to grow into because markets shift at different. So sure, everything happened at once, recently, but also what I've heard is that there's also a shift geographically, it starts in one area and then it kind of moves over. And so if I got a little bit of a head start because somebody in Arizona is hey, this is starting to happen over here. It's probably going to happen in North Carolina soon. That's a heads up for me. That's really helpful for me to begin shifting my strategy. And so I think it's having an overall understanding of the market and overall understanding of the market and how to adjust a strategy. I'm a strong believer that in football games, it isn't always the best and the most athletic team that wins. It's the team that adjusts the best after halftime that wins.
Amen.
Perfect. And this is the perfect example. I don't know if you watched the Ohio State Michigan game this past week. Ohio State was crushing Michigan in the first half of the game. Michigan crushed Ohio State in the second half of the game. It's the team that adjusts at halftime that wins the game. And so that's where I strongly believe that something having a proper understanding of what's going on in the market and then adjusting your strategy in real time is what's going to help you to get consistent, honestly. Because what consistently worked for somebody 3 years or 3 weeks ago or 3 months ago is not going to consistently work for somebody now. And so if you're talking about consistent month to month stuff, it's understanding and then it's having the processes and the systems in place to be able to pivot well. So we've talked about that stuff. So I didn't want to just give a systems and processes answer, but I think it's said that, it should go unsaid that you can't build high until you build deep and have a firm foundation to build upon. So
that's an incredible answer. I couldn't agree with you more. Devin, let me ask you this: with you rolling back, getting that train started, getting that plane off the ground, what is your number one struggle that you think you're dealing with right now?
My number one struggle is it comes from self-awareness, and it's knowing that my number one struggle is money management. That's my number one struggle. And so I went with Simple CFO and David Richter and his team. And it's to begin to have them now make sure that my money is managed well. So because I'm thankful, man, but we're about to come into a good amount of money from these foreclosures, and praise the Lord for that. I'm very thankful for that. And I've got an incredible team that's helped me to make that happen. I don't want to let my team down because I've got poor money management. And so that's the biggest struggle for us is making sure that I can I could get myself as far away from the money as possible. And so I would say that part of it. One of the other things too, and this is like for me personally, like my mom does a lot of the TC stuff. She used to work for a hedge fund, and so she understands that that side of it. And then I've got a really good friend. One of my best friends heads up my investor sales division. So that's where like I have to lean on somebody like Carl to handle those relationships well. I cannot talk. I already know I can't talk money with my mom. Like it's just not a thing, right? And so like that's where I see struggles coming in. It's just like I'm a nice guy, and I'll give people the world. I should not be allowed to. And so that's kind of like where we see our struggles are, is just making sure that we're managing money and managing like emotions and staff well. So that's for us.
I love that transparency. A lot of people don't want to admit that, but I mean, what's the number one quote? It's a skill to make money. It's a discipline to keep it, right?
Yeah.
And I think we all deal with it from time to time.
Well, really quickly, one of my favorite quotes that my financial planner told me, he goes, companies don't die from starvation. They die from indigestion. And so like, it's what happens. People don't know how to manage money. People can grow companies like you wouldn't believe. It's easy to make money. It's not easy to keep it. It's not easy to be a good steward of it. It's not easy to deploy it correctly. And so companies die from indigestion more than they die from starvation.
I love that. And you said that was a Simple CFO?
They did not say that. No, I had a financial planner a long time ago tell me that from other
company. No. Sorry. The company that you said that did you hire recently? Yeah.
So they're essentially a fractional CFO. It's David Richter and his team. So we love Profit First. I read Profit First years ago for another company I had. And so now they implement it. So I read Profit First for real estate investors. I met him at CG a couple years ago last year. And then, so then now I hired them to be our fractional CFO.
Incredible. Yeah. We'll probably have to do that same thing. I love that.
You should.
Let me ask you this. What are your strategies? I mean, we're going through a market correction. What are your strategies to get through this recession and coming out even stronger on the other side?
Yeah. So, and you probably heard this a lot lately, is like just staying lean. Like we moved out of, literally today, moved out of a sick office space, probably one of the closest buildings to Panther Stadium. Players walk by my office all the time. It's right next to their practice facility. I get parking to the games, but like we need to go lean. So like, I don't want that overhead. So we got rid of that overhead. So we got rid of that overhead. Also one of the big things for us is like I said, like, sure, the data is good. I'm going to double down on like this foreclosure stuff, man. Like Amazon just laid off 11,000 people. Facebook laid off 11,000 people. Like I put on my story, there's probably like just only like 10 companies that laid off over 10,000 people. And it's like all these people are getting laid off. We are about to enter into and the moratorium's ending. COVID's like over-ish. Like people haven't been paying their bills in 2 years. Like there are going to be a lot of people in foreclosure. And like, there's going to be a lot of people we can help, man. Like at the end of the day, there's a lot of people we get to help. And so, I'm really excited about that. That's what we're double downing into, because that also is where our mission is too. That's closest to our mission statement we can be, is helping people in foreclosures, honestly. So that's kind of where we're going to double down into, most likely.
I love that. And that goes along with, with all the pre-foreclosures that might be coming. That goes along with real estate agents, wholesalers, investors, escrow companies, attorneys. Everybody could be helping and utilizing this market correction, right? So
yeah, for sure.
Devin, let me ask you this. What have you, and I know you have a few, what have you read or listened to that just really inspired you recently?
I do, man. You know what? What am I reading right now? I read Atomic Habits. That one's good. I'm reading, I butcher this name every time. But it is so good. Let me pull it up right now. I am currently reading, what's that app? Audible. Okay. So now I'm not reading Audible, but I need to pull it up on my ladder. Oh, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. Reading that right now. And it's a pastor that writes the book, but I think it's also very applicable to every part of our life. Because it's just this idea of eliminating hurry. because what do we automatically equate success with? I'm so busy. I'm busy. I'm busy. I'm busy. I'm busy. Right. But like at the end of the day, like that's not what it's about, because that busy creates anxiety. It creates stress. It creates like dissension. It creates frustration. It creates like chaos in your life. And so like this, I'm really enjoying this book about eliminating ruthless elimination of hurry. So that one's really good. And I honestly, yeah, there's a couple of really, really good ones that what's this called? It's called Building an Elite Organization. That one's very good, but you can't listen to that on Audible. It's so like robust that you have to go through it with the real book. And so that's a good one. I'll leave those two because those are like really big ones for me right now. If you haven't read How to Win Friends and Influence People, that's the best book you could read on understanding people and serving them well, I think, as in your interactions.
I love it. As a matter of fact, I'm rereading that book, and it has made me change my sales script.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and by rereading that book, we have gotten the most contracts within this last month than we've ever had, and just because we've implemented those things in that book.
Hey, let's go. That's what I'm talking about, man.
Let me ask you this, Devin. What is one myth, since you've been in real estate, that you would like to debunk?
That it's hard. This thing is not hard. Golly, man, this is wild. I can't tell you, man. Real estate fires me up because of how crazy it is, bro. How you can get houses, what you can do with land, how easy it is. Like, first of all, how easy it is to like raise money. Cause like all you got to do is raise like $1 million to get into giant apartment complexes. And it's the same thing as a house. Like, it's just crazy. Like, it's wild, man. It's wild. Awesome.
Well, again, Devin, I just want to thank you so much for having me on here. You definitely gave us a lot of value, a lot of gold nuggets. Matter of fact, I wrote down a few notes for myself and our team that we're going to go over. So again, Devin, you're already successful. You have a successful mindset, and we couldn't thank you enough. Now you've been doing a lot of social media stuff. So again, if you're not following Devin already, go follow him. Go check him out. Devin, where can we find you on social media?
Yes. So real quick. So I said real estate is not hard. I like this saying. It's easy, but it's not simple. Like, it's easy, but it's not simple. But you can find me, I don't know, Devin.Robinson1, I think is what it is, but you don't need to follow me. Keep following Aaron. My guy's giving out value over there, man. He's killing it.
I thank you again, Devin. And we'll see you next time.
Yes, sir. You the man.